Part 2 with Mandy Trapp is here. Join me and the magical Mandy Trapp, my bestie, who I call Mimi, as we dive even deeper this week. In this episode, Mandy shares how the most painful parts of her story became the foundation for the work that she does today. We talk about the importance of reclaiming your power before opening up the vulnerable conversations and why timing and self-healing matters. Mandy introduces the idea of approaching these tough moments with tenderness, offering a beautiful perspective on staying open without re-injury. And we talk about the power of cleaning up your own energy before you enter tough conversations. As well, we dive into Mandy's journey as a personal trainer to Vedic Master, meditation teacher, and breathwork leader. The behind the scenes truth of bringing mental health into the front room is something that Mandy dives into. And I think it's a really important conversation and it matters now more than ever. We also talk about breathwork and how it's one of the most powerful tools for transcendence and how Mandy guides others through it. So this episode is another deep dive into a whole bunch of magic and more. This conversation is a loving invitation to stop searching outside of yourself and start tapping into the wisdom, healing, and joy that's always within. Enjoy. Hey there, it's Jillian, your guide to all things joy. And this is the Joy Journey Podcast. And welcome back. Welcome back to the second part of the Mandy Trapp Journey of Joy. So part 1, Mandy was so courageous in sharing her story, a piece that she does not speak about or hasn't until now, around what we would call a family secret or family secrets and her transmutation of that pain into power. So today we're coming back together to talk more about where all this led her and now how she's transmuted that into the way in which she's teaching and leading and guiding in the world. So much magic. And one thing that was coming up as we were kind of, getting back into the energy of the show was around sharing our stories, like sharing our experiences with those who may or may not have been a part of it. And in these places where it is painful and there is potential suffering and triggering and all of these sorts of things, what I have found is, and this is why I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Mandy, but like, it's really important to have reclaimed your own power on these things before we share it with others. Otherwise, it can get really messy. For instance, going and having these conversations now with your family. What if they're like, that's not true. You're making it up. That didn't happen for me. That wasn't my experience. Like, it would be really tricky to have those conversations in a loving way if you had not healed those components for yourself. Would you agree?
Yes, 1,000%.
Because now what gets to happen is you get to go back in and now we're opening up, we being you.
Thanks for coming.
I will come if you want me to.
Moderating the experience.
Opening a portal for healing, which looks like suffering, right? Like this could stir things up. That's what happens. And vulnerability is an antidote to shame. And it is the doorway to actual true healing. So in this instance, it could be a place where, as a person sharing, like, you may need to hold space, like, for others. And if you can't, that could get really problematic. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the fact that you, like, I just see it as divine timing, the fact that you haven't been overt about this experience. And it's like, you've been working it through and transmuting it and reclaiming it. And now it's perfect timing.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that try to work things through. Maybe it's like in a marriage, right? Maybe it's in a friendship. Maybe it's like with their family. And they're like, and I get it, right? Like, I need closure. We need to get through this. But if you're coming at it in a place where you're still so deep in the suffering of it and your attachment to that suffering of it, all I can see is like a great big huge dust storm in the middle of the desert right now. And it just keeps pulling more things and we just keep getting more inflamed and more triggered and more inflamed and more triggered. And I really think that this is actually what drives partnerships apart. This is what drives families apart, is it's trying to heal inside of the deeper hurt and the deeper harm. And I know like even my husband and I in our own marriage, like we've done a lot of work. There's always work to be done. But if there's one thing that we have learned is that if we are feeling triggered by each other or there's something to do, is that we need to first go into our own corners and to do whatever we need to do to be able to discharge excess energy, because I don't want to take all of the energy of complete anger and rage. Part of it might be about him. Part of it might be shit that I've been holding on to for the last week that's not even related to him. But if I bring all of that into the ring, then I'm probably going to burn the whole relationship down.
Mm.
So I go into my own corner and I start to clear away. And he does the same. As much of that energy as possible. I say as much as possible. It's not all of it because we still have stuff that we're holding on to. But I mean, you use the word vulnerability to come in and connect. And I actually want to use the word tenderness.
Yeah.
So if we come in where it's like, what does it actually feel like physically to be vulnerable? To me, it feels tender.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ripping off a scab, right? Or like a layer of your skin. It's like, I'm exposing and I'm showing this to you right now, but I'm also aware that like, please don't put your finger in it and touch it and push it too much.
Yes.
So I'm just going to kind of gently kind of manage this right now. But the truer healing that needs to happen are in those deeper layers. Cause we've all heard this. It's never about what's on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about what's under,
Mm.
and if I think about where I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, like I need to share this with my parents. I was in phases of anger. Like, how dare you fucking let this happen to me?
Mm.
Right? I was in places of feeling like deep grief of abandonment. How dare you abandon me? Right? I was not in a place where I had kind of worked through and been able to get to the point where it's like, okay, I did feel angry or I did feel abandoned. But now I have the bigger picture. I have kind of the full story, and I feel more in charge of my energy and my emotion. And kind of what we'd shared in part one is they're not the ones who are responsible for putting me back together.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I've realized though is the more that I can clean and clear out the things that I feel that I still need from them, the more that I can be in the moment and truly know, how do I ask, what do I need from you now? Because what I need from you now is not what that 5-year-old needed. Right? It's not because what I needed was like physical safety and protection back then. I really don't need that from my parents right now.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I know how to ask for today's current need if I'm still packing all of my luggage from the past? And also, Gigi, like at the end of the day, we can't go back. We can't fix it. I know this from the other side of being a parent and having sometimes my kids will say to me, like, I can't believe that you did that to me back then. I can't believe that you made me do that by myself. I can't believe that you didn't stand up for me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, thank you for saying, I am so sorry. Like, for whatever the reasoning was, I am sorry. And what do you need from me now? Like, now, how can I support you? But if they're stuck and hanging on to, and, full transparency, they're still young adults and they're still stuck in their shit. And it's like, but I needed you to make it better then. I'm like, but I can't. Like, so unless you have a time machine in the yard that I can,
or a hot tub,
which fuck, that would be rad, and some Chernobyl. Like, we're not going back, or a DeLorean. Like, the reality is we're just not going back to that. So whatever residue that you have from that, like as a parent, I actually can't heal that and clean that up for you, even though I might have been partially responsible. Same thing. My parents can't heal that for me, even though they might be partially responsible.
So can I ask you this?
Dad, grandfather,
right?
who I still, even if he was alive, I would never want to see him face to face, but I am responsible for that. Right. So then I can ask for the people that are here right now. And here's how you can support me while I'm doing that work.
And also, it's coming through to just share and get curious about what it looks like to actually, like, does it feel like it's a support, or does it feel like it's a sharing? Like, if it feels like potentially it's more about like sharing your story to actually, because it feels like actual intimacy, like I actually love you enough and care enough about you and our relationship to share this piece of my experience with you.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's the sharing and the ability for us to be able to say, like, there's something that I really need to share with you. And because we are so prompted to do, because we're in a relationship, and being in a relationship is a doing.
Yeah.
That even if the doing is just having the person like sit and listen, even
Yeah.
if the doing is like, and I need you to hold my hand, or even if the doing is like, I need you to come outside with me and we need to, I don't know, like pretend to murder this dummy because it's going to help me blow off some steam. Not a real person, a dummy. My experience in my growth is that if I want a teammate in working through this, is that I have to invite them to be on my team, and I have to really ask them or appoint them into the role that I want them to play. Otherwise, they stay on one side of the table and I stay on the other.
Yeah.
And whether it's the intention or not, they're still going to feel separate and like, holy shit, I did something to hurt you.
Yeah. Like, I mean, these conversations, I love that we're just having this convo right now around like, what is this convo going to look like? Because you're right. We do need to enroll people into what we need when we're having these tender conversations.
Yes.
Like, here's what I need from you. And just making it so clear. Otherwise, again, it could end up being a conflict when it's actually meant to bring people closer.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So can we jump back into Deepak Chopra? Chopra. Yeah. Is it?
Chopra.
Okay. And so you enroll in a weekend meditation retreat. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Like, what even was it? What did you say yes to?
It was a weekend, like primordial sound meditation retreat.
Oh,
I didn't know.
Okay.
I just, I followed his face.
Okay.
I'm like, I guess he's not showing up in Edmonton for 3 people, but okay, that's fine.
Whatever. Okay. And then what happened from then? Let's pick it up.
It was probably, again, you and I are twin flames. It was probably like your very first class at my meditation center. I was like, what do I do next with him? Like, where do I go?
We're gonna be best friends.
So there was a Chopra Center in Southern California. And I'm like, there's courses you can take, but there's also teacher trainings. I'm like, I'm just skipping the fucking courses. I want to be a teacher. I want to teach this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the prerequisites was a beautiful thing called Synchrodestiny. It was like a 7-day retreat. So there was seduction of spirit that I went to. There was like a perfect health. There's all these beautiful little prerequisites that were like 5 to 7 day long intensives and retreats. That was an incredible part of me, actually, for the first time in my life, receiving some language and process to what inherently I already knew. Right? It's kind of weird. Like, oh, well, it's not just gibberish. This isn't just me. There are other people who think the way that I think. There are other people who are on this path. There's people who teach this. What? People teach this shit? This is incredible. Oh my God. Oh my God. So like it honestly, it looked like me going back and forth between Edmonton and Southern California for, I don't remember, 5 years or 6 years by the time I finished what's called like a Vedic Master's certification. So to teach Ayurveda, to become Ayurvedic practitioner, to teach their lineage of meditation, which is called primordial sound meditation, and then to teach their form of yoga, which was the last part of the training I took. Because at that point, I had still been doing I'm like, I've already taken like 4 or 5 different yoga teacher trainings, and it was very physical, but there was something so beautiful to that was just like, what would that look like to be so deeply connected to spirit while you're moving your body and purpose. And so, I did all of that. I finished all of that. I felt very much at home in that community, made great friends with people. Yeah, Deepak was my teacher. Dr. David Simon, who was his partner in the center, who incredible man. He looked like Gandhi, spoke like Gandhi, was a neurologist. And it was a very heartbreaking part of our journey as teachers and in the community when even he, after I'd probably known him for 10, 12 years at the time, diagnosed his own brain tumor, and within the year had passed away. But he like walked the whole community through his death and his transition through emails. And it was just so inspiring and it was so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, it became obvious to me very early that I'm not just going there to get a training. I'm going there to learn that this is a way of life. Right. And, you mentioned earlier in part 1, it's like, okay, Mandy, you're a meditation teacher and breathwork, but then you teach these spiritual concepts over here and it's not separate.
No.
It's not separate because that's why I always struggle. I'm like, what do I call myself? But the more that we meditate, the more that we sit by ourselves, the more questions that we have. It's actually less answers that we come up with, but the more
It's
questions
so
that we have.
true.
It's so true.
Yes.
Right? There's more questions that come from it. And then when we come back out into the world and we open our eyes and we're like, well, who do I ask this question to? And being able to start to find the right people, the right friends, the right teachers, the right books, the right documentaries, the right, like, to me, that is, you can call it the spiritual journey, but it's really just the journey of being human. Is why we came here.
So true.
Right. So,
Yes.
yeah, I feel very fortunate to have really existed at a time where our classes were 20 to 30 people, and it was Deepak and Dr. Simon and David G. And, um, Wayne Dyer would pop in, or all of these, just like Marianne Williamson, like these beautiful teachers would just kind of come in and, kind of sprinkle some of their magic and their wisdom. And I just like literally soaked all of it in. And while I was doing that, though, part of me that knows that I was born to teach is that every single time I'm listening to something, I'm like, how do I explain this to other people?
Mm-hmm.
So when people will often say to me, they're like, I really resonate with you as a teacher, Mandy, because you just say things in very simple terms, right? You just have this way of making it relatable. And I'm like, just so you know, is like, I'm trying to make it relatable for myself first. Like, what does this mean? What's a good metaphor for this? So that then I can explain it to my kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or to anybody on the street, because sometimes that becomes a little bit of a disconnect. Like,
Yeah.
I don't speak Sanskrit. I can't meditate. I'm like, well, me neither. It's not really a spoken language, but or I
Yeah.
don't speak all of this crazy, like woo-woo-y or like very complex neuroscientific language. We don't need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me now, you become a friggin' Vedic master. You're studying with Deepak and all his buddies, and you start to teach in Edmonton.
Yeah, but I'm still a personal trainer this whole time. I'm still
Oh,
working with NHL
of course.
players.
Of course.
So
That
the
makes
cool thing,
sense.
like back to kind of like the stitching and the sewing that I had
Yeah.
mentioned in part one, is, I would go away for a week or 2 weeks, and then I would come back and I would instantly integrate this. I would start teaching this, yes, to my kids, yes, to my other students, yes, to my clients in the gym, yes, to my hockey guys. Like, it just was a constant, like, back and forth. Like, and as I'm learning, you're learning. As I'm growing, you're growing.
True integration,
Yeah, it was true
embodiment.
integration. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then where did lifestyle come from?
Well, I did that back and forth, little weavy wonder. I did that dance for like, can you believe I just slipped in weavy wonder whenever we talk about our hair weaves? Unbelievable. Okay. Yeah, it's really glowing today.
It's really on point.
Oh my God. Okay. What was I saying? Where did that come in? Okay. Yeah. I did that little weavy dance for a while, like 10 years or something like that. And what I started to notice evolutionary wise is that, every week there's a new fitness hack coming out. There's like a new, try this method, do this. And then people were starting to come at me constantly with like this multi-level marketing thing. And there's this supplement and it's backed by this doctor. And I'm just like, okay, we can keep trying to fix the body at the level of the body, but the body isn't what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
The body it's just keeping the record for every other thought that you have, every belief that you have, like every desire that you have. And so if we really want to, and I don't just mean like your physical body, your arms
Mhm.
and your legs, our extended body is our whole environment around us. It's your home, it's your workspace, right?
Mm.
It's your relationship. So if you want to manage all of that, is that we actually have to get into what's called the subtle body. We have to get into the mind. Like, what am I actually thinking?
Yeah.
What's driving? It's like, what it, ugh, see, listen, I can't even put it together.
Who's driving this
But
train?
who's driving the train, right? Who's the conductor? Like, who's the pilot, right? Who's behind that door?
Mm-hmm.
So I started to really I sat in it for a while. I'll be honest. It wasn't like a spontaneous decision, because from the outside looking in terms of my life as a trainer, like I kind of hit like the jackpot.
Right.
I'm working with, and as an athlete, I'm working with professional athletes. I'm working with like incredible people who lead like Fortune 500 businesses. I'm traveling all around. Like I'm showing up at billionaires' homes to, I don't know, lead them through a stretch and and I was teaching meditation to them, but in the back room.
Right.
I'm like, so on the floor where everybody can see, we're doing all sorts of agility drills and stuff. But then I'm like, okay, well, let's go talk back here. Right. Then I'm leading them through meditations. We're having like very open and honest conversations about how terrified that they are that, that they're not going to get drafted or that they're going to lose their business next week because of some bullshit lawsuit, something that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real life shit.
Mm.
And there was just something that was like, until I actually say no to the mask of it's almost like this whole charade of I'm
The
just going to
golden
keep making my
handcuffs.
life better by lifting heavier weights or by running faster, which, okay, thanks, Trapp. I just got my own message of what I shared in part 1. Okay, I guess we have to like go beyond the body.
Right.
And stop running away and stop building up the shield of strength. But we actually have to get soft. We have to open ourselves up. What's really running the show?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I need to bring, like, and this is a metaphor, but it was also truth. I need to bring meditation and mental health into the front room. This needs to be the first thing that people see when they walk in. If we're going to break down the stigma, because everybody's wanting to talk about it behind closed doors, but nobody wants to bring it up because then it's like, people will judge me. Even in the world of athletics, is that there are psychologists or psychiatrists assigned to all of these different athletes and these different teams. And yet it is not only confidential about what is discussed with that therapist, but it's confidential in terms of who even accesses the services.
Right.
And the reason for that is because, first of all, that player doesn't want their coaches and their management to know that they're struggling with anything, because that's going to impact their ability to have their contract re-signed. They might be traded tomorrow. Oh, what? Oh, wow, he's had like 5 sessions with a therapist this month. We don't want to re-sign him. There's something going on. Maybe he has an addiction.
Mm.
So on one hand, we're over here going, yay, like today's mental health awareness day. Today's like, let's raise all this money for Bella, let's talk. And maybe I am criticizing these types of things. I was like, I'm not criticizing the fact that we're putting these dates on the calendar, but I am actually criticizing this because I left personal training 12 years ago only to work with mental health, which has now become also the expansion of spiritual health, just because that's where we are. And I would tell you that there's still, my opinion, there's still just as much stigma today as there was back then.
Mm.
We still look at people and call them crazy. We're still like, why can't you get your shit together? Right? We're still like, why are you so anxious? Why are you so afraid? Why are you so depressed? Why are you missing work? What do you mean you're taking mental health leave? That must be nice. Right? We are still not, even for ourselves personally. I was thinking about this today because I had a company reach out to me last week and ask if I could do a keynote. And these are all multi-million-dollar companies, like big executives that are there. Could you come and do a keynote for us? We're doing this wellness day. And we really want to bring in this idea of like mental health and meditation and focus and concentration. What would you charge? And I was like, well, and it's a really good friend too, who's like putting all this together. And also, I'm like, I would love to work more with them. So I'm not going to like put out some insanely obscure number, because if I can at least get my foot in the door, it's full transparency. I'm like, this is great and I'll help people. So I literally scaled back what I had shared. And I said, X number, whatever. I said, I'll just charge you for a half day, even though I'm going to have to take a full day. I'm going to have to travel on either side of it. And he's like, okay. And he goes, okay, I'll take this back to them. He goes, I see the value in this. And you guys, it was like peanuts. He goes, but I'm going to have to like really make sure that I get the other like education chair on board with this. And I said, yeah, it's no big deal. I get off the phone and I'm thinking about it. And I know this organization really well. I know, because my husband was with them. I know what they pay their business speakers to come in. They pay them 10 times at least what I would charge at my peak. And so the thing that I was thinking is like, why the fuck are we placing so much value on business advice or like, how do I manifest this amount of money, X, Y, and Z, when if you actually do not value your thoughts, your health, your inner well-being, your inner dialogue, your habits, if you don't value that more, the rest of that doesn't matter. And I would tell you that from firsthand experience, living with somebody who went through mental breakdowns, even though he was making millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
So culturally, we need to begin to shift where we are placing our value. And we need to put our money where our mouth is. We need to put our actions where our mouth is. We need to be willing to step up and to say, okay, I know that you see me this way. It's what I did do in part one.
Mm-hmm.
And to say, like, I also have struggled and I'm still sometimes struggling.
Yes.
And I still sometimes get anxious about it. Of course I do. I do dip into depression. I do.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference now is that I actually know how, when I'm there, I know how to get myself out of it. And how do
You
I
have
know
the
how to do
tools.
that? Because I've done a huge part of this on my own. I've been resourceful, but I've also done a huge part of this by being vulnerable and sharing that with other people and in community. So on the days that I don't feel strong enough to do it, I have other people that help and support me.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more people to do this.
Yes.
So that's where I am today. I couldn't stay in the back room with meditation,
Mm-hmm.
but we still have a ways to go.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And I feel like I see the shift and I agree. I even notice with myself, like, what I'm willing to spend on my business versus myself, like scoffing at,
I get it.
even at the gym, being like, what, it's X amount an hour for training. And then it's like, yeah, how much do you want to pay to feel completely different in your body, But if you told me it was like a business workshop, I would have paid that in a heartbeat.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm in this realm. I also am bringing joy to businesses and noticing that there's more of a demand, which I just celebrate the shit out of. Absolutely. And the spaces and the people, even when I'm meeting with, business owners who are like, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. And it's like, how much would you spend to feel better?
Mm-hmm.
How much would you spend to take full accountability, responsibility, shift your life and wake up to a life you literally love? And it's just, I feel like we're shifting and there's so much room to grow.
So much.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk breath work.
Okay. Speaking of which, were we? I don't know. I just felt like that was a funny thing to say.
I love it. Yeah, that was a perfect place to say it. So let's talk about, because okay, actually, I'm just going to say it. So you were doing like lifestyle meditation kind of started in your home studio. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, right. You asked that question. It did. Well, it actually started before that because I was teaching it. I'll just say this part really quick. I was teaching it obviously privately with so many people for so many, like 15 years,
Okay.
maybe 12 years before I decided to quit the training. And then I thought, okay, well, how do I teach more people at one time? So it's a really kind of funny evolution because I'm like, I'll just put on like a 2-hour introduction to meditation workshop, a little bit of science, right? A little bit of kind of philosophy, like what are we actually doing here? And then take people through a little practice. And then here's how you go home. So, okay, I'll just do one and I'll actually see if people are even interested. So I hosted it at a girlfriend's yoga studio in Sherwood Park. I'll never forget my very first 2-hour intro to meditation. And like we packed that room. Like we could not have fit another body in there. I don't know how many people are in there, probably 80 or something like that. And I'm like, holy shit, like these are everyday, normal, average people like me, like you, like all of you that are listening, not people who this has been a part of their life. And at the end of that, like I think it dropped a bomb like into people's life, like, holy shit, in ways that I had felt in the past. What is this? And I do need this. And I didn't know that this stressed me out and that this was really the impact of that in my life and why I feel shitty and no joy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up a few intro to meditation classes over the next couple months. And let's just see, maybe this was just like a one-time thing. And now I've hit everybody in Edmonton that's interested in meditating in one time.
Nice try.
But it kept
flash forward 20 years later.
Flash forward. Oh my God, 20 years later. Yeah, crazy, hey? And same thing, they just like, they were fuller. And after every single one, people are like, oh my God, like, could you please, like, I'm a teacher. Could you come to my school and could you teach my kids? Or I'm a first responder. Could you come and support all of these other first responders? Or I like work in HR and corporate. Can you come and like deliver this to our team or down to the corporation? And I knew in that moment, just based on the momentum of everything and my kids, I had 3 kids, they were quite young at the time. And my first answer was like, no, I can't, but you can. And people are like, well, what do you mean I can? And I was like, just give me a few weeks. And so I would say one of my strengths that I already knew was one of my strengths at that time is boring to some people. I freaking love it, but it's developing curriculum. I'm really great at taking like a whole bunch of information, distilling it into something that feels like easily teachable. And within the first like 6 months of running these little mini workshops, and yes, I had a little home studio as well. I developed the first like 25-hour learn to teach meditation teacher training, which you took, Gigi.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah. And in the first few years of teaching that, like first few years, like 1,000 people, 1,500 people.
Yeah.
And like, and I would cap out at like 30 people, and I would run one every couple of months.
Yeah.
And like it was really taking off. So then I started to train other trainers to also be able to do it. I developed a secondary training that was learn to teach meditation to kids and teens that was a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
And the thing that I loved about it is it was 3 solid days where people who were already being touched by the practice of meditation in their life, and it walked them literally off a ledge
Yes.
in certain points, or walked them through a cancer journey or a deep loss. And all that they wanted to do, which I truly believe is all of us, is they wanted to learn and help and serve other people, but they just didn't have the language for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, I meditate, but people ask me all the time what to do. I'm like, I don't really know how to do this. I don't really know what to tell them. And so the gift of what that offered in 3 days, like I have certain people that I'll never forget. And one was this beautiful woman who had come. She had been working at the U of A hospital, like on a 6-month term. And she had come, she found out about, I don't know, very last minute about this training going on. And she was from Kuwait. She was a doctor. And she was just about to go back literally the day after the training was done. And she just gave me the biggest hug, and she started crying at the end. And she goes, like, you'll probably never know, but I'm about to go in to take this into the hospitals in Kuwait right now. And like with your blessing, we'll start to train other doctors and other nurses, you know, for all of, and I just think like war torn and refugees and the amount of trauma that they're facing every single day. And she goes, it blows my mind that in just 3 days that she goes, I know that this is going to make such a massive impact.
Truly.
Truly.
Mimi,
right?
I just need to pause and just like as you're speaking, I'm just feeling and remembering, you know, back in 2017, taking the 3-day, you know, workshop, and still have friends to this day from that work, that experience. And like Connie was in that session. Did you know that?
Was she in that one?
Yeah. Connie, who's now a friggin' joy facilitator, literally was in that 25-hour training.
I love it.
And she was telling me, you know, the other day about what I was sharing, and like I was losing my grandparents at the time. Like it was very big time. And anyway, like it's just, so the relationships, the fabric sewn in those trainings is so powerful. And so I really just want to give you a lot of credit for the beautiful role that you play in this world as a teacher and as a leader. And, you know, I'm so grateful I get to also call you my bestie, but you have been a pivotal piece in a lot of people's stories. And I don't think you really realize it. And I think as teachers, we don't often hear it, where people share like how life-changing you have been for them. And for you to really know like the legacy, the impact you've had on the legacy of others and their families and their communities. Like it is massive. It's beyond what I feel like you will ever truly know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't, but I just show up and I trust and I hope. I trust in the ripple effect. It was my original catalyst for doing what I do is I'm like, when one person feels more in charge of their life, they make different decisions. They parent differently, right? They partner differently. They make different split-second decisions in traffic that then has a ripple effect on the next person.
Yeah.
Right. And then the breathwork piece was something that I also began. It was a part of my healing when I started going down to the Chopra Center for my training. And I need to say this. When I first started, my daughter was only 5 months old. She's now 22, 23, almost 23. She was only 5 months old, and I was feeling all sorts of like mother guilt and what am I doing and where am I going and how can I be, you know, whatever. So selfish to all of this, and didn't know where to stay. Didn't have a ton of money to stay like at the big fancy hotel that was like everybody else was going to stay at. And then the woman who was my teacher here, who taught me the meditation in Edmonton, who became a dear friend, Marcia Lee, she's like, well, you know, there is a woman that lives really close to the center that, you some people that I know will go and stay with her. She's got like she called it a healing home, and it is a healing home, like a bed and breakfast. And she's got some rooms, and it's walking distance to the Chopra Center. And so I'll connect you with Louise. So she connects me with Louise. And I have like this travel day of like delays and missed flights and everything. And I finally arrive, and like the most incredible, sweetest, most vibrant, yet at that time, probably 65-year-old woman comes and meets me at the gate to her home and like wraps me in a blanket. And she's like, "You must be so tired. Like, come in, I'll make you some tea." And I sat on the couch, and no word of a lie, while she went in the kitchen and I look up, there's a massive picture above her fireplace of none other than Brown Jesus. And it was a picture that is actually hanging in my bedroom right now to this day. And like, honestly, I wish that I could go back in time and like see what my face looked like when I saw that, because I was like, what in the actual fucking hell is happening here right now? And she comes in and I was kind of laughing, and I was like, "Can I just ask you about Brown Jesus?" And she laughed so hard. She's like, "Oh my God." And she goes, that's Paramahansa Yogananda. And I'm like, "I've never heard that name before. I have no context." I said, "But I've been seeing Brown Jesus since I was like little." And she goes, "Yeah, then he's your guide. Like, he's your guru." Anyway, so Yogananda, who was one of the very, very first yogis to come to North America in 1920 from India, and introduced the West not only to all of these like spiritual concepts, but I mean, he was talking like neuroscience and neuroplasticity back then. Like, we've only gotten on board in the last 2 decades with so much of what he was sharing way back then. And she was a devotee of Yogananda, and he ended up like moving into California and into Southern California, which was very close to her home in Encinitas, and his hermitage and the temple. And I still had a day break the next day. I had the day off, which happened to be a Sunday before we started on Monday. And she said, "Well, I'm going to the service tomorrow, and they have his home open if you want to go and tour his home." And I went to the service, and I think I cried through the whole entire thing. And then we went into his home. Like, see, I'm still crying. Like, it's so weird. And like, just looking at his bedroom was like, oh, and this is where he wrote Autobiography of a Yogi. And that's the whole story about his life. And then I see a picture of Jesus, like white Jesus. And now I'm even more confused about what's happening. And I'm like, I don't get it. Isn't he Hindu? Like, give me some lessons here. Again, she laughed, and she's like, no, like, there's these spiritual truths and all these incredible ascended masters that have these beautiful relationships. And to this day, she's 88 years old now. My mama Louise is my spiritual mama, and we are so close. And just recently I came back from a trip in the Amazon, and I came home and just back into the busyness of life. And I just was feeling so overwhelmed and disconnected. And just a couple weeks ago, my husband's like, what do you need, man? Like, to plug yourself in. And I'm like, I need to go see mama. I need to go sit in the temple. And he's like, okay, do it, book it. And I just got on and I booked that flight, and I'm going next week. But it's like, for us to have these homes and to know where we feel at home, that no matter how far, if we get one step away from it, or if we get 1,000 steps away from it, for like, I went to go see mama last year, like a year, but before that, like, I hadn't seen her since before COVID.
Yeah.
And she's never like, where have you been?
Yeah.
She's just like, hi, welcome home. Like, I'm so glad that you're here. I just messaged her. I'm like, hey, I'm coming. She's like, beautiful. Your bed is ready, is what she says.
Oh, I love it.
I wish this for all people. And she was the one that introduced me to breathwork.
Right.
And she had me breathing from my very first trip that I went there, when I was like 24 years old. And it was deep and intense, and took me to past lives. And there was so much from my whole upbringing. There was so much anger and resentment that I was holding on to, that specific form of like conscious connected breath work helped me to find my voice again and find my power. And I went through this, like, I had to go a few years of just, I need to deal with my own shit before I can like even think about taking anybody else through this.
Yeah.
And then when the timing felt right, I mean, she was the one like that really started to mentor me in it. Right. And I was a part of the lineage that she learned through, and she started to pull away from that. There was a lot of politics, and I started to pull away from it. And I just continued to be mentored by her. And I did a lot of this stuff behind the scenes because it's quite, I mean, now it's very popular in the last 5 years, but before that, nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like a last straw when I would have somebody who was like really stuck and they're like, I'm stuck in this addiction. I'm stuck in this illness. Like I can't get out of it. I'd be like, hey, do you want to come breathe?
Mm.
And now I'm doing it. It's not about me. It's not. So when I say I'm doing it, I want to find even different language. Now I have the gift. I feel like a midwife for these souls that are like being born and like coming out of, like Michael Jackson Thriller movie, like where the zombies come out, but like
Yes.
the good zombies,
Yeah.
the parts of ourselves that have been sleeping in the shadows.
Yeah.
Even at Wild Roses Festival last year, 600 women breathing at one time together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, I read it and I fucking cry through the whole thing because I'm watching people do it for themselves. And I always say, like, I can guide this, but you're the one who's going to have to walk yourself across that threshold to actually like let it go and to let yourself feel it, to feel safe enough to feel it and to move it. I can't do it for it. Nobody could do it for me. And I can't do that for anybody. But the power and the potency of the breath, I know plant medicine and psychedelics are super popular, and I don't talk those down because I just went on an ayahuasca journey.
Which we'll do another.
Could,
Stay tuned for part 3.
Part 3, Mandy's ayahuasca journey and Rainbow Bright.
Yes.
We don't need it. That is a message I want people to know: is we do not need anything outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We need to tap into what's already there. We need to activate it.
Mm.
And sometimes the things that are the most painful, that cause the most suffering, we resist it, but that actually is the activation. That brings 100%. Us to our joy. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Say it again one more time.
That pain brings us to our joy. When we lean into it and people are like, but how? How do I face it? How do I touch it? You breathe.
Mm.
You breathe. And this will also make me cry because my dad had a very fast journey with cancer last year. It was 5 weeks from the date of diagnosis until he took his last breath. But I remember like when we sat in that room the first day and they gave us the news and I couldn't breathe. Like just the next breath, like just the next breath, like just the next. And I feel like for 5 weeks, it was just the next breath and just the next breath. And it was the power of that breath just to stay conscious, to stay awake. And when those breaths started to get a little bit longer and they felt a little bit fuller inside of my body and a bit stronger, and especially in the end for him when he was having such a hard time breathing. And I'm like, and I can breathe for him. Mm-hmm. And there's all going to be people in our lives that are lost. There's going to be, or we have lost, and they're on the other side of the veil that just don't know how or didn't get the chance to breathe. And I think that every time I go into my own breathwork sessions, like if I can't find the power for me, can I find it for my dad? Can I find it for my mom whose heart is so broken? Yeah. Can I find it for my daughter who lives like 10,000 fucking miles away from me, who's having to do life on her own? Can I find it for my boys? Can I find it for my husband? That gives me the power to break through my stuff. Yeah. And then the outcome is that I'm stronger. I'm stronger for it. Yeah. Right. It's transmutation isn't, in my opinion, a powerful enough word to what's possible when we really tap into our own potential. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like transcendence.
It's transcendence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Mandy Trapp. My goodness.
Time is up. On that note, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for visiting today.
I am actually so powerful. So I'm sharing this with all of you right now as I feel like in my tears, like these are different tears. These are tears of just like such gratitude and joy. Yeah. For you, for me, for myself, for spirit. Yeah.
Gets to be both. It gets to be it all. And I so appreciate your heartfelt sharing today, just showing up so fully who you are. You're the person in my life who I look at to just like remind me to just be you, like literally just be you. And I feel like those who are closest to you, they get to see this, and those in your programs very much do too. But I'm really excited for people who might not have had access to or known like what it is you do, or just had the experience of your frequency to get to feel you and feel your heart. You're just the brightest light. And I love everything, every single thing, cell, everything about you. And this is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot more parts. I feel like I would love to talk more about breathwork because it is such a buzzword right now and really dive into it with you. And I just know you're going to be a regular on this show.
Yes, please reserve my
The
regular
Mimi and
seat.
Gigi show.
It is.
Who's ready for it?
Oh my God. Please, let's do a road trip.
Right. We're going to do road trip. Okay. Thank you. I love you.
Welcome. I love you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so
And
much for having me in your space.
absolutely, everyone, please check out Mandy everywhere on the internets. So Mandy Trapp, pretty much on every platform, as well as her website, mandytrapp.com.
Mhm.
Yeah. And reach out with any questions, reach out with some love. And I can't wait to do this again.
Let's do it again.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cheech.
I
Thank you,
love you.
everybody. See you soon. Mwah.